Mujevale, Mujevale, Mujevale. My name is Bani Kibuka, and this is the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Welcome once again to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. And as I promised you, I'm going to be bringing different people on my podcast to just talk about different lifestyle. Some of these people are my friends. Some of them we met or our lives crossed paths at some point. And through their stories, we can learn a lot of different things. And some of them are similar to my childhood. Some of them will be different. And today's guest will be Edith Naigaga. I don't even know how we met and how we became friends, but that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. I think I remember we connected through Instagram. So Edith will say hi to the listeners.
Hello. Hi, guys.
So yeah, Edith, we'll start with that first thought. I was just thinking, how did we even become friends and how did I get to know Edith? Do you have an idea how we became friends?
I think it was like mutual friends on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
We know a lot of people because you know people in Raleigh.
I think you know Godwin, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a mutual friend we had. And I lived in Durham and I got to meet most of my Kenyan family. I have my Kenyan family in Durham and I think that's how we got connected. So that's pretty crazy. Like we never met, but we connected somehow. And actually, I got inspired by your podcast. I think when we became friends, I saw your podcast on Spotify and listening to it. I remember hearing your story is like 90% exactly like how it was. I know you're from Uganda, but will you tell us what region of Uganda you're from?
So I was born in Jinja, which is like a small town 2 hours away from Kampala, which is the capital city. I think it's 2 hours or 4 hours.
Right. Yeah, I think it's around that.
But yeah, I mostly lived there. And then I think we lived in Bugembe for a while, which is another town. But is that a region? I forgot a lot.
Bugembe. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's a region. I've heard of it.
So yeah, but then I spent most of my time in Kenya.
Kenya.
Because my mom, that's another thing that we connected on. My mom's half Kenyan. So my mom's Kenyan, I'm half Kenyan. And then my dad's Ugandan.
That's pretty crazy because the first episode I just did, I was talking about how my dad is Ugandan and my mom is Kenyan. And it's just exact how your life was. Like my mom is Kenyan and my dad is Ugandan. We used to go to Kenya every year and just see my Kenyan family. So I felt like that was pretty crazy listening to your story and learning that. So having that, how was your life like growing up, like having two parents, and how was your life, your childhood life?
It wasn't difficult, but in my podcast I get into detail explaining how like I was confused on which side I gotta, like what culture I gotta focus on, because in the Ugandan culture you gotta like kneel down to greet your elders or to greet the men. In the Kenyan culture, they don't do that. It's like, what is this? You know, when I talk to my Kenyan friends, they're so confused. They're like, we don't do that back home.
Yeah.
So like everything was different.
Yeah, that's the same thing my mom would talk about. Like she started kneeling down at some point to my dad once in a while, but it wasn't really a big thing in our house. So I would never see my mom like kneel down, but she would kneel down like to other people to show them respect because they moved to Uganda and we grew up in Uganda. So she would like kneel down. But I noticed that too when we go to Kenya, like ladies just stand and greet.
You just shake. Yeah. So, yeah. But like, so I actually have 3 different cultures in me now. Like, well, not by birth. My American side is my stepmom. So I had to adjust with that and like learn the American customs and change my ways. So it was very confusing. And now I just tell people that I just exist. I'm not really, I don't have a culture to follow. I'm just like, I'm a person. I'm just here.
I think that's another thing we have in common, because like I'm married an American. My life just totally changed, like too. Like you have to adapt to a totally different culture and like learn new things. But yeah, that's pretty crazy. Now, like in your childhood, like how was your childhood home? Like did you say you lived most time in Kenya, right?
I spent most of my holidays in Kenya. I went to school in Uganda, and then I went to school in Kenya for 2 years. But my childhood home was big. We had 21 people living with us because my parents like to take in people. And that's how it is in, I feel like, most Ugandan homes or like African homes in general. Everyone just comes to like I'm putting this in quotes, the rich uncle or parents' house to live in. And that, in my case, that was my family. So everyone came to my parents' house and they were just staying there, and it was big, and I loved it because there's a lot of different people. You get to learn a lot from everybody. There was a lot of different cultures. My Kenyan family, my Ugandan family was there. So I got to speak a lot of different languages, eat a lot of different food.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like I got to learn Swahili because my grandma doesn't speak English. So whenever we were in Kenya and my mom wasn't there to interpret everything for me, I had to forcefully learn Swahili so I can talk to my grandma. And yeah, that helped me to learn like different languages.
It was mostly grandparents. Like you have to learn to speak to them. It wasn't really other relatives.
Yeah, and on the other thing you talked about like having a lot of people, like in Uganda, we basically, my dad's house is around my grandma's house, and all my uncles like around the same area. So we would see each other every time. And like on Christmas Day, you'll see all your cousins come. And that's one thing that I really like about the African culture is like coming together and like all being together. It's pretty nice. Now, I know we like as kids in Africa, we play like different games and like had different kind of, what's your childhood memory? Like what's the best childhood memory you have in you?
Of playing games? Like what games? Or
it can be games, it can be anything, just a memory that you say like this will be my best childhood memory, like whether it was a game or whether it was a life event, but something that you would say.
I don't really think I have a childhood memory.
I think like I would say for me, my best childhood memory is like when we came together for Christmas. Like my dad's side, all of them would come. We'd meet at my grandma's house, and would all have Christmas together. That's the same thing we did in Kenya too. Like my mom's side, they would all come for like Christmas, and we have our Christmas together. And the other thing I talked about in my podcast earlier was how we celebrated the New Year's Day. I don't know how you guys did the New Year's Day, but in our family, we would have like a big bonfire, and we would sing songs, and just people bring like maize, and we roast maize. That was a while back when we were young, and then we would burn like car tires and Christmas trees. But the police stopped all that because it was dangerous, and the kids playing with fire and stuff like that.
I do remember burning Christmas trees. It's just, I think, because I think every family did that. I just think my memory is foggy because I tried to like block out most of the stuff because I went through like traumatic things back home. So everything like is blocked out. So trying to remember like a good memory, it's hard because I moved here at a really young age. I moved here when I was 9. So.
Oh yeah, I could.
Not 9, 12.
No, yeah, but still, that actually explains it better because, because I moved here when I was like 21, so I think I still have a pretty good memory of my childhood life better than you would, because I think at the age of 12 I was just in boarding school like in Uganda, and that's when actually most of my childhood life started, like just remembering my high school and primary school and all those things that we did, all that. Now you were going to talk about games. Do you have any childhood games that you remember?
I remember
you guys played?
doing the one with the ropes, the jump rope. I don't know what it's called. And then hopscotch, which I think it's called something else in Uganda.
Kwepena.
I think that's it. I don't speak my father's language that much.
Oh, you know.
So, and then we play a lot of tag and like hide and seek. Ugandan polka, Kenyan polka, which they're very similar. They just everyone makes their own rules. Every time I play with somebody, it's a different rule. So those are the games that I remember playing.
Yeah, I remember when we're in Kenya, my cousins were trying to teach me to play Kenyan polka, and it was just confusing. It's just, slightly different, but yeah, it was definitely fun to play all those games like in Uganda. Now, you said you moved here when you're 12 years old, right?
Yes.
So I would say that was, you had just finished primary, or you were in primary?
So I was in primary 7. So I was getting ready to go to secondary school. But then when I moved here, I got pushed back in order to fit like the age group here, like to be in the same people, the people my age.
Right.
But yeah, so.
I have some friends in Alabama too that moved here, and they were just finishing, I think, primary, but they got moved back because of their age and something like that. Yeah,
it kind of hurt me because I was like, I want to be in high school. I'm not supposed to be with these children.
Yeah, I think it would hurt me too. But for the time you were in Uganda in primary school, do you have any memories of that time, or you don't? Or you were in Kenya? So.
I have memories of beatings. I think we all did. We were all scarred. PTSD. Especially in Kenya, because to this day, I can't read or write Swahili. I can only speak it and hear it.
Right.
And I would fail the Swahili tests, and they would, because in Kenya it's a requirement to take Swahili class and to speak Swahili. In Uganda, it's different. They won't let you speak your mother tongue. And I remember whenever we would speak Lusoga and get in trouble, they would make us like hop and sing, speaking vernacular, I am stupid, speaking vernacular, I'll be punished. And it didn't make sense to me. Like the other country, you're allowed to do that, and in this other country, you're not. So like I just remember being punished in both just for speaking vernacular.
I remember that. I think my memory in my primary school, when you speak vernacular, they will make you wear a sock
I remember
the whole day.
Too. Or the bone.
Like, you wear that the whole day, and it was just crazy. Now,
traumatizing.
I know. As when we were kids, we would have these dreams of like being a doctor, being a surgeon, being a lawyer, we would even sing songs. I want to be, or I don't even know how to sing it, but like, did you ever have like a dream job when you were young, like at that age?
I had a lot of dream jobs. I did dream about being a doctor because that's where African parents tend to lead you to. They're like, you gotta be a doctor or an engineer, or, the big jobs. But my parents weren't that traditional. So I would change it up. I said, doctor, I wanted to be a pilot. At one point, I wanted to be a waitress, believe it or not, because I just loved how like they would just talk to people and how they interacted and they were nice. Like I wanted to do that for a living until I realized it doesn't pay that much. I don't do that no more. But my biggest one was acting. I just love the arts. So I wanted to act or sing. So I'm still trying to follow those dreams to this day.
I think for me, singing was off my list because when I was young, we used to have a Sunday school choir, and my dad, being the pastor of the church, he would like say, "How will I tell other parents to bring their kids to sing, and my own son doesn't want to sing?" So he forced me in the choir, and I didn't like it, but I had to do it because my dad was saying that. But as a child, I wanted to be a lawyer. I really wanted to be a lawyer. But when I got to high school and I found out about, I did this in my last podcast too, talking about my dream to work with aviation. I really loved airplanes, and I thank God that that's something I'm doing today. That it was a dream, and I get to do it today. So it worked out pretty good.
I think with some people, they get lucky and they find their passion right away, and they can go to it. And I think that's what I'm trying. Like, I'm struggling to do right now, which I do know my passion. I really want to act, but I just don't know the steps into getting there. I'm trying to figure that out. If not, then I guess I'll just keep studying until I figure out.
And that's something that actually made me want to do this podcast, because like bringing all my friends and bringing all different people that are in different places, they're doing different things. Like, I'm an airplane mechanic. I have a friend who is a musician. I have a friend who is a lawyer, and like bringing them here and talking about what they've gone through, it will help other people to be like, oh, this person, and these are people we know, these are people we grew up seeing. And like, that's one thing I want to hear from them. And maybe somebody who is listening will be able to be like, oh, this guy came and talked about this kind of thing he did. And that's how life is. Like, you get helped by like different people and just hearing from different people's stories.
Exactly. They give you step by step of how they got to where they are.
Now, in your podcast, you talked about you grew up in a Christian home, right?
Yes, my father was a preacher, or is a preacher.
And that's the same thing we have in common. So what was it like growing up in a Christian home?
I went into detail. My father called me out for that because I don't want to say I felt forced to like have to believe, because don't get me wrong, I believe God exists. I believe in God. I read my Bible. But it's just that when you grow up in a preacher's Christian home and being a preacher's kid, it's more stressful towards you because the church expects you to act a certain way, especially for the girls. You're expected to dress a certain way. You're expected to be somebody else that you're totally not. And I was a rebel because of that. So I rebelled against everything. I would not listen. I would wear jeans to church and I would get looks. They're like, oh, the lady's not supposed to do that. But I loved leading in Sunday school. I remember every Sunday I would go to Sunday school and be like, I want to be the teacher today. So they would let me teach the class, and I would sing in the church choir. So I loved going to church. I just didn't like the part of having that title behind me of being a PK, a pastor's daughter or pastor's kid.
Right. I feel like, being a PK comes with a lot of pressure behind it. And you hit about the point of expectations from the church. I remember when my cousins, they were living in Kampala, when they would come to visit. So they would come wearing their jeans. And I remember this one lady in our church who was like elder or something like that. After service, she had all those girls sitting there and just talking to them about wearing jeans. But I just feel like that's also, it comes with our culture and expectations. Like, people take that into that, which I don't think it's right. I don't think wearing jeans is any problem. But yeah, definitely growing up in a Christian home in Africa, you have a lot of expectations expected from you, and it can bring pressure. But
it brings stress. But it's not actually just in an African home. I've spoken to PKs here, and I had like pastors' kids reach out to me after listening to the podcast, and they're like, I didn't know you were a pastor's kid. Like, I can relate to this. Like, I understand. Because there's those church ladies are everywhere. The elder church ladies that are going to talk to you and like tell you you're not supposed to do this. You're a PK. You're supposed to do that. So no matter where you go, if you have that title, you're going to suffer.
Right.
And I think the hardest job in this world is being a preacher's wife, and then followed by being a preacher's kid. Those two are hard.
I wish my mom will get to listen to this podcast and
she'll agree with me. She'll be like, yes, that's why I stay away from preachers. I'm like, oh, you're a preacher? No, thank you. Like, because I've lived that life with that title. I don't want expectations set for me. I want to have my own life.
Right. But I feel like for me, in a good way, it helped me because like sometimes it will hold me. I was rebellious too. Like, don't get me wrong. There's some things I wouldn't do. And I tell about the story how I had friends and who was stealing everything in our community, like money, food, and everything. But after I changed my life, being a PK, there's a way it kept me under the radar. Like there's some things I wouldn't do. So it helped me at some point just keep me down and just keep me
It
calm.
saves your life in some way. Because living in Uganda or like in any country, you can fall into bad crowds. But having, I don't want to say strict parents, but having Christian parents and being a PK, that saves you because you think, oh, what are those people going to think? They're going to think our family is crazy and they don't raise me right. So I should probably not do that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I think the other good thing is my dad is not a super strict guy. So my dad is just a chill person. So that was a positive thing on my side too, because he wasn't super strict about things. So he let me be who I am. And yeah. But when he gets mad, he would beat me. But yeah. So if there's anything in your past that you would change, what would it be? If there's one thing you would say, I would have changed this, what would you pick?
To change.
In your childhood or anything that you didn't like?
I think I would have changed my phase where I'm gonna go back to the Christian stuff, where I was angry at God. So in my podcast, I'm open. I tell people that the story of how I lost my family in a car accident. And I didn't understand why that happened. I kept questioning God. Why did you take them away from me? I'm confused, you know? So I was angry and I stopped praying for a couple years. I think it was 6 years. And recently I've started to find my way back. My dad always told me it's okay to be angry at God as long as in your heart you still believe. Because in the Bible, I'm forgetting the Bible verse, but there's a verse in the Bible that says that. So
yeah,
that's what I would change. I think I would just keep praying and just accept what path he has for me, because at the end of the day, people die, you will lose people, and that's life. You cannot escape death, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah, and I agree with you. We're humans, and that could be tough. We go through a lot of hurtful things, and you just don't know how to handle it and how to go about it. But like you made a very good point. Like if in your heart you still remember that God is good and He's with you through everything, and that's what counts. But yeah, I like that, and I like being honest too, and just talk about something just the way it is. So yeah, I like that, honest. Now, you said you moved to the States when you were 12 years old. What was your transition like when you just came from Uganda to? I know you talk about this in your podcast, but I wanted my listeners to just have a glimpse of how your life was. You can put in a summary.
Culture shock. So I already spoke English. And my accent, as you can tell, I don't really have a Ugandan or Kenyan accent because I was in two different countries and I grew up around white missionaries. So I adapted to like an accent that I don't know. So when I moved here, I had a little bit of a Ugandan Kenyan accent and people wouldn't understand me. So I had to watch more shows to adapt and make sure people understand me. I had to change my dialect, like change the way I say things. I couldn't say Z, I had to say Z. I couldn't say chips, I had to say, crisps, I had to say chips. So it was, everything was just, it was different. I didn't get bullied as much than I did when in Uganda for speaking with a different accent, because if you have a different accent, they're like, oh, look at this one. Like, you think you're better than us. You know?
Yeah, I can definitely relate on the part where I have to change your dialect. Like at my workplace, even today, I would say something to people. I was like, "What are you talking about?"
What are you saying?
what do you say? And like that is forcing me to change the way I pronounce things.
I hated that. That's why I watch movies, to change my accent. I did not like that.
Then the last second to last thing I'm gonna ask you about, like with all these things going on in Uganda, I know as not being in Uganda and not being there at the moment, what do you think about what's going on right now in the country?
It's hurtful. It hurts me that I'm here and there's nothing I can do. Like I don't even think I could do anything if I was home.
All right.
But it just this happens in every election. But this is worse than the elections that I've seen growing up. I talked to my dad about it, and he says it's not as bad as Idi Amin's time, because my dad was around during that. But it's still, it's escalating, like to the point where he does not need to be bombing his people. If he wants power, he does not need to be that bad. And by him, I mean our dictator, because he's at this point he's not a president.
No, I get you. And like for me, that's the same thing. It's hard for me. I just look at Ali like I don't have anything against the president. I mean, I might have some of my reasons why, but the fact that we need to be at the point where we get new leaders, like other countries, you know, it doesn't have to be one person to lead the country forever. The other thing is just equality, like treat people the same way. And with all these things, you see them going on, like some groups of people are treated differently and the other groups of people are treated differently. And that's one thing I don't really like. Also, the other thing of killing people, if they're trying to save people from coronavirus, I don't see the reason why they would shoot at them, you know, and like killing them of other things. So I'm just praying that God can save our country and we can have we can get to see a new leader.
I hope so.
Now we're almost to the end of the show, and on each episode that I do with a guest, I have a signature question for my podcast. And this signature question is, what gets you excited about life?
Food. I like food. Like I've told somebody today, I would spend $50 on a meal, like for one day, before I spend $50 on a shirt. Like I will not buy myself clothes. I will eat before I buy anything else.
I liked your answer because you didn't even think about it. Just straight up.
It's food.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I like that. Edith, thank you very much. It was so nice having you on here.
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll come across a lot of other questions that I'll come up on. Sometimes we might have a part 2, and I can't wait to be on your podcast too at some point and just get this thing going. I'm so excited that we get to have this opportunity to have things like this, to connect with people and just make it like a hobby,
also,
you know?
Don't forget to tell your listeners the name of my podcast. Uganda to America. Very simple.
Uganda to America. So all our listeners, you go show some love to Edith by subscribing to her podcast,
it's on Apple
Uganda
Podcasts
to America.
and Spotify.
Yeah, I'll make sure I include a link to your podcast in this episode. So thank you very much, and see you when I see you.